One of the first games that many people play whenever they come to Flames of War is, of course, going to be the free-for-all scenario that's in the big main rulebook. Free-for-all is getting 2 objectives and having to place them in your opponent's deployment zone. These being your objectives that you have to get to.
Go and capture.
So, Matt, give us a bit of advice. If I'm just starting out with Flames of War and I've got my first game, I've got my tanks, I'm ready to go, but I could easily be taken out on my first try of free-for-all because I don't know how to place these properly. What's the advice that you would give on placing your objectives in your opponent's deployment zone?
Okay, so I was playing the Americans. I'm going to place my 2 objectives here.
Yep.
I'd be looking for somewhere reasonably in the open, not overly well defended, or that can be not overly defended. So
yeah, I suppose that's your 2 choices, really, isn't it?
Buildings
it's something that's easy to get. You either have to choose something that's easy for you to get to, or something that's hard for me to defend.
Yeah. So nice bits of open ground, always good. Not too much cover knocking around, or if there is, you want to make sure you've got something in your armour that you know you're going to be able to knock them away from.
Oh, it's something like a big artillery gun or something.
Big artillery gun. The new Stugs with the Stu 42s with the 10.5 guns, great for knocking infantry out of little dug-in positions.
Yeah, infantry, of course, being one of the good units for holding objectives because they can all dig in, and it makes them hard to get rid of.
Dig in, they can defend quite happily, and obviously keep pushing you away.
Yeah, and of course, if you drive your tanks too close, they could always choose to assault you as well. And
there is that, yeah. So. I mean, using our little bit of no man's ground here, if I was going to place an objective, I'd be looking somewhere around here. There is cover points knocking around. They're a bit further away though than what you really want to be able to hold that position. How
close do you have to be to defend an objective?
Different missions have different defendable areas. Yeah, so some of them it's within 4 inches. There's other missions that you need to clear the enemy from 16 inches away. Depends on the mission itself.
Right. Okay.
But obviously, it'll also depend on which mission you're playing as to where you deploy your objectives.
Okay, so say this was being deployed here. So the way we were playing this earlier, of course, the fences don't really count as cover for tanks. They're wood. It really doesn't. It really isn't going to defend a tank. However, for an infantryman, it's a lot better
something
because
to hide behind.
It's basically you can't see him as opposed to it's gonna stop a tank shell.
Especially if he's dug in.
Yeah, especially if he's dug in. So at this point, you know, I could sit in this field, but the field, of course, is difficult terrain for tanks as well. The chances of getting bogged down or
you'd be better off sort of hiding behind the little hedges.
Yeah, somewhere around there, and
getting
of course,
yourself concealed. Got a nice little shot. If anything happens to come, the direct route.
Yeah.
And your front armor's facing forwards.
Exactly.
Big important.
Okay, but of course, the point of this is that there's 2 objectives that have to be placed. Yeah. So in this case, that one is in a reasonably good place, but they can't. How far apart can they be in free fall? They can't be within 8 inches of each other.
Normally, you'd have a gap in between them. They've got to be at least 48 inches together.
Right, so they've got to be within 48 inches, but they've got to be more than 8 inches apart.
There we go. Okay. But that's a specific free-for-all because you could be playing on an 8-foot table.
Yeah, sure.
Now, with my other objective, you'd be a bit more cunning. You think, actually, I know my opponent's going to want to defend one of these particular objectives quite well. Give him a position where he can defend, dig all his troops in, and then you can happily ignore him.
Also called forcing your opponent to overcommit.
So find something next to the building, plenty of woods and other things around it, somewhere you can happily pop it down. He's going to defend that to hell. Yeah. Well, hopefully leaving this one reasonably open.
Again, that's what we're saying. Forcing your opponent to overcommit, meaning this is obviously the one that's easy to defend. Get all my good tanks, get all my good stuff in.
Troops in the buildings, tanks round in the woods.
Yep. Whereas standing in the middle of this field with a load of really nice tanks, really it's presenting just a nice target.
It'd work with the Panthers, but your Panther 4s are a bit more vulnerable.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if this was in, it's got a reasonably good position, of course, as well for a late turn sort of
rush
seizing.
Down,
get the old half tracks that go quite a distance and have troops in them. They just bomb down there and everybody jumps out and digs in.
Obviously, with the roads now increasing their movements, if you can find a road to pop your objective at the bottom of,
that makes it even better. Yeah. So there you go, guys. Just a bit of advice on how to place objectives. If you're playing a free-for-all game, you know, there's basically your choices. You want to place it somewhere that's easily defendable, meaning that you might be forcing your opponent to overcommit their forces to it, or somewhere that it's easy for you to get to, and hard for them to defend. So somewhere like open ground, where, you know, really if they try to get within 4 inches of an objective sitting in open ground, you're presenting a nice, easy target.
That's it. Only dug-in troops.
That's it.
Possibly have a possibility of defending, and yeah, you can easily manoeuvre yourself into position.
That's it, and then of course a few flamethrowers, and suddenly your dug-in troops don't seem like such a dug-in as they should be. So there you go, guys. That's a little bit of advice then on that. If you want to hear some more tips for Flames of War, please drop some comments below. If you have any questions that you want answered that perhaps Matt can answer for you, then please send them in. Remember, submissions@beastsofwar.com is the place to send any of your requests to. So we'll get on, we'll get some more tips for Flames of War, and we'll see you soon.